The sun dipped behind the New York skyline as Richard Langston parked the old, dented pickup truck in front of a modest diner on 42nd Street. He turned off the engine and looked at his sons in the passenger seats. Logan, 26, a corporate lawyer in a designer suit, and Caleb, 23, a software engineer with his hoodie pulled low, stared at their father with uneasy glances. "You seriously want us to go on a blind date dressed like this? Driving this?" Logan said, tugging at the sleeve of his worn-out flannel shirt. "Yes," Richard replied with a calm smile. "Tonight, we're not Langston heirs. We're just three regular men trying to find something real." Caleb sighed but didn't argue. It wasn't the first time their father had made them do something strange. But this felt different, off-script, emotional even. The hostess inside the diner greeted them warmly, leading them to a booth tucked in the back. Three women were already waiting, ordinary, no glamour, no pretense. One was a nurse, another a schoolteacher, and the third a grocery store clerk. All had been told they were meeting humble blue-collar men looking for real connection. The conversation started awkwardly but eased with time. Laughter echoed as the waitress refilled coffee cups. For a while, everyone forgot about wealth, resumes, and reputations. Richard, usually the man behind multi-million-dollar deals, was asking about classroom struggles and grocery aisle chaos like they were boardroom strategies. But beneath his smile, Richard had a secret. His doctors had given him just 6 months to live. Cancer. Inoperable. Quietly, he had withdrawn from board meetings and sold his mansion. He wanted to know one thing before he died: what kind of men his sons really were without money to mask their choices. As the evening wore on, Logan found himself drawn to Sarah, the school teacher. She didn't know who he really was and didn't care. She spoke passionately about helping underprivileged kids, and her eyes lit up when she talked about her volunteer work. Caleb connected with Mia, the nurse, whose kindness reminded him of his late mother. Richard watched silently, a bittersweet pride in his eyes. Then came the twist. A breaking news alert flashed on the diner's old TV. Langston Industries plunges after sudden resignation of CEO Richard Langston. Sarah turned to Logan. "Isn't that your name?" Caleb paled. The entire booth went silent. Mia slowly stood. "You lied to us?" "No," Richard said, standing. "We didn't lie. We just didn't tell the whole truth." The women walked out, not in anger, but in disappointment. The warmth that had built during the evening dissolved like mist. Outside, it started to rain. Back in the truck, silence fell over the three men. "Why did we do this, Dad?" Caleb asked. "To see if love, kindness, and truth could still matter when money didn't." And with that, Richard collapsed. He hadn't eaten all day, and the pain he'd hidden now surged forward. Logan and Caleb rushed him to the hospital. The diagnosis was worse than before, weeks, not months. The boys, shaken, left the hospital with red eyes and heavy hearts. The next morning, Logan stood on Sarah's doorstep. No suit, no limo, just a man with a broken heart and an open soul. "I came to tell you the truth," he said, voice trembling, "and to ask for a second chance. Not because I'm rich, but because last night made me realize who I want to be." Sarah looked at him, then smiled. Meanwhile, Caleb met Mia at the hospital cafe. "My father was dying that night," he confessed. "He wanted to see if we could find people who loved us, not our last names." Mia didn't speak. She just reached for his hand. Days passed. Then weeks. Richard's condition worsened. But what changed everything was not his illness. It was the women who came back, not out of pity, but out of love. Sarah and Mia began visiting him, bringing homemade meals, laughter, and stories. The millionaire who once lived behind a fortress of staff and gates now spent his final days in a small hospice, surrounded not by wealth, but by humanity. On his last day, Richard whispered to Logan and Caleb, "Now you understand. Life isn't about what you have. It's about who you have, and what you do when everything else is stripped away." Then he closed his eyes and left the world peacefully. At the funeral, people expected opulence. Instead, they found simplicity. A wooden casket. Flowers picked by hand. A crowd filled with teachers, nurses, clerks, and everyday people whose lives Richard had quietly touched. Weeks later, Logan and Caleb returned to the diner. Not to find love, but to thank the staff. They left a note for the waitress who had once poured their coffee that night. "Your kindness reminded us that love doesn't wear labels, and neither should we." They donated the truck to a single mother, funded the school where Sarah taught, and set up a free clinic where Mia worked. And in a quiet corner of New York, in a small diner with chipped tables and mismatched mugs, the memory of one strange blind date continued to change lives, not through wealth, but through kindness, selflessness, and the power of humanity.